Well, jeepers! You're listening to Smash or Pass.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another interview on the JayBee Milly channel. I am JayBee, and of course, with me is Milly.
Hi.
We have Sophie,
Hey.
and our special guest today is I don't know what to announce you as because there's just so many things that come to mind. Scooby Doo collector, Scooby Doo content creator, TikTok with over 30,000 followers. We have Tristan Sacrey.
Hello, thank you so much for having me on. I'm all of the above. I do a lot.
Oh, well, it is incredible to have you here. And we must admit, like, I was getting so self-conscious before this meeting because we were obviously familiar with your TikToks on your YouTube. And I'm kind of like, can we just bring some of the bigger stuff into the background just so we don't look completely inferior? But I mean, even now, I'm just like,
It's the
look at all
dream
that.
backdrop to have, isn't it? It's amazing.
I got so lucky. My desk was actually in the old closet. We took the doors off, and it just happens to be like the perfect place to set up a camera. So I feel I'm very lucky in this room.
Well, it is absolutely fantastic. And I just can't wait to discuss your Scooby fandom and collection today. So
Yes.
I guess what better way to start than the start? Do you recall what your first Scooby-Doo related memory was?
One of the first was definitely I grew up in Brampton, Ontario. It's really close to Toronto. And we had this amusement park called Canada's Wonderland. But back when Paramount owned it, it used to be full of Scooby-Doo like merchandise and properties. They really went for like the classic Hanna-Barbera, like Yogi Bear, the Flintstones, Scooby-Doo and Scrappy. And ever since I was a very young toddler, it was just like I was obsessed with all the rides, and there was the whole like Hanna-Barbera land for the kids where everything was Scooby-Doo themed, like Scooby-Doo themed merry-go-rounds and roller coasters and dark rides. And that was, I think, truly the first like obsession. And then it got into the shows and movies.
It's amazing. I mean, there is so much we're interested in getting on about and getting into, and it's really interesting to hear that that's where one of your first memories was as well. I guess kind of thinking back throughout your entire Scooby history, was there ever a certain character of the gang that you leaned to more as one of your favorites?
As a kid, I loved Scooby. Like I was such a dog lover as a little kid. I'm super allergic to dogs, which a lot of people don't know. So
Oh,
I had like this affinity for wanting to hug and cuddle them, but I couldn't. So I think Scooby definitely filled that void of like needing some puppy love. So as a kid, it was definitely Scooby. As an adult, I have a huge heart for Daphne. Daphne's my favorite now. Yes, I can see the cardboard cutout behind
yeah.
you.
That's perfect. We're all Daffy lovers. I think we've said several
Yes.
times how much he's our favourite. Do you
Yes.
have a favourite Scooby movie or show? And if so, has it changed over the years at all?
My childhood copy of Scooby Doo 2002 on VHS. This is definitely the thing that cemented the addiction to Scooby Doo. It's a perfect movie. I can quote it forwards and backwards. It's also how me and my partner met. It's also his favorite film. Yeah, that's definitely the movie that's our go-to.
I love that so much. I'm almost like, can I just throw all professionalism away and try and join this throuple? Because like, that's my favorite movie of all time. Is just yeah, I could go on for hours, and I'm sure I have actually throughout the history of the channel. But one question that we ask guests, which I think rings a bit more true in this situation, is about people wanting to follow in the footsteps of whoever we have on here. And so I know there's a lot of people in the community with Scooby rooms, and even a lot of people with a group of Scooby items that may be looking to create a Scooby room. Do you have any advice for people wanting to, I guess, follow in the footsteps of you in terms of building up your collection in that way?
For sure, all I can say is that it doesn't happen overnight. As long as you are dedicated for the right reasons, if you don't like I didn't start this collection expecting it to get this large. If you had told me 4 years ago that I would now have this room and this platform, I probably wouldn't believe you. It started as a couple of VHS tapes and a couple of Funko Pops on a single shelf, and that led to three shelves, that led to a shelf with desks, and then displays and multiple walls, and now an entire room where I'm just encompassed with things. And anything that you want, you have to put both money and time into. You can be very frugal when it comes to collecting. Most of our collection is thrifted. That's the biggest piece of like advice I can give people is just go thrifting. You know, it's relatively low cost, even free if you don't find anything. But you don't have to be constantly buying things at full value right when they're new on the shelves to start a collection.
That's fantastic. And one thing that people, I think, is easy to forget, especially in the realm of content creation, is people, I suppose, having other interests, for lack of a better word. So we're surrounded by the Scooby room here, but I suppose if we would go into the next room, there's a whole shelf dedicated to Buffy the Vampire Slayer and whatnot. Is there anything in particular that, led you to believe, maybe I'm a part of different fandoms, but despite being part of those different fandoms, this is going to be the room of Scooby? Like, was there anything that attracted you to the franchise to the point where you would collect all those things?
I think starting TikTok and documenting the collecting process has sort of divulged me into a different category of collector. I don't know if I would necessarily have the amount or quantity that I have if it weren't both for my partner. Like this is two people's collection. And we're in a place where he's comfortable, like we have it all in one spot. Like this is our combined investment. So I think if I weren't like pushed to want to make Scooby hunting videos, we weren't going and actively searching out Scooby related things twice a week, I definitely wouldn't have just accumulated so much stuff so quickly. But yeah, it's I do have other interests, but this one I think has come directly to the forefront because I've decided to make content on it and I love making content on it. So this has just become like my full-time hobby side hustle like thing that just is all consuming, obviously.
And I can completely agree with what you were saying. I think sometimes you don't expect collections to grow as quickly as they did. As you can probably tell, we're sat in our own Scooby room, and it started off as 2 bookcases. And like you, we were going to, like, over here we call them car boot sales, to you it's probably a yard sale, but I'm
Yeah,
finding so many different items every week that the collection grew so quickly, and all of a sudden things aren't fitting in one room anymore. It's so difficult to try and arrange things. I've seen you do some really good videos about your room, reorganizing it. So, do you have any advice to people who are running out of space about how to display things in perhaps a more compact way, or how you've managed to still keep everything in one room as the collection grows?
for sure. So I actually literally just posted a new TikTok of completely reorganizing this room again. I was up until 4 in the morning trying to get it reorganized because I just happened to have the day off today. The biggest piece of advice I can say when it comes to like displaying and also keeping a collection is just be mindful of what space you have. I am very lucky to have an extra bedroom in our apartment that, with a bed and a kitchen. That was nothing. That was it. I would not have this stuff. This would not be an option for me. If we ever move, I don't know what's going to happen to this. It may end up in boxes. It may like end up in a little studio that we're renting. As far as like actually displaying it, I do get overwhelmed sometimes, but I'm very mindful to have a dedicated bucket so that whenever we go thrifting or wherever we go shopping or antique malls, all the Scooby hunts, I take the new things and I put them in the bucket so they're not just all over the apartment. They're not just like on my desk or on one shelf, and I don't just put things away to keep them there for the time being. I'm very mindful to put them in a specific place so that I can just like process them, clean them, remove like price tags, whatever needs to happen to fix them, repair them, and then they get put on the shelves in their proper spot. And again, it's a constant rotation of like new shelving. I'm always moving stuff. Nothing ever stays in the same spot. But yeah, that's how I keep up with it.
Yeah, no, it's really helpful to know. I like the idea of a bucket because quite often we kind of bring them in, they end up on the desk and then get moved to the side of the desk. So I think that's a good thing that we could start to implement as well. Going back to kind of like, building the collection, do you remember the very first Scooby item you ever had, be it one of the DVDs, a toy, and is it something that you still have and is part of your collection today?
I think probably the first thing that I had was a stuffed animal. I got to a point where I had maybe 10 and like varying different sizes, and I used to keep them all on my bed, like on my bedspread on the comforter. And I got to like middle school and my mom was expecting me to make my bed every morning crazy. And I was like, Mom, like it takes a long time to put the plushies on the bed. Like, can you please put them somewhere for me? Like I don't have any shelf space. I don't have anywhere to put them besides on the floor. And she's like, yeah, like we'll throw them in a bags. And it disappeared. So all of my childhood stuffed animals vanished. She swears she didn't throw them away. She swears up and down she didn't give them away, but we've never been able to find them. And all of my childhood plushies are gone. So those are the ones that I'm always trying to hunt down. So when I find some, I have been able to like repurchase a couple. But there's definitely a couple that I will always have my eye out for because they're gone.
I feel a lot better now. I've been in the same shoes of like, I know that half of my childhood collection's gone somewhere. And I think the joy is like hunting down the collection of like things that you had in your childhood. Like they're always the best items to find.
Yes.
There's a lot of Scooby products out there made by different brands such as Funko and handmade by robots. Is there a particular type of Scooby item that you like to collect the most?
The reason I started TikTok is because I was a really big fan of Blake Silva, and I had been doing like random videos, just sort of like doing trends and like trending sounds for about a year, and I wasn't getting any traction. And then I posted a Scooby Doo related video of going to this new Funko Pop store in my hometown of Brampton, and it did really well, and the reception was amazing, and the owner of the store was so blown away. He was like, wow, I didn't know that you had this community. And I was like, I didn't know I had this community. I didn't know that people were interested in Scooby-Doo. So I was like joking with my roommate like, oh, why don't you just start doing Scooby-Doo content? And I was like, oh, no one's gonna watch that. And then like 100 subscribers, 100 followers turned into like 1,000. But if it weren't for Blake Silva and like his style of video, like Scooby hunting is exactly what he was doing, but he wasn't calling it like like a specific hunt. He would go to Target, grab a basket, and look for like a Funko Pop, or you would go to like different stores in the States. Um, so that's where it started. I've gotten better at shopping online. I used to peruse eBay and like resellers, but I found it was too expensive, especially for the shipping to Canada, because usually the shipping was almost as much as the product. So the last Funko that I have purchased was probably the most expensive thing in our collection, and it was $300. But Brad and I split it, so we didn't feel that bad about it. But we finally got our hands on the Creeper Funko. This I missed out on when it came, and we were able to find the Emerald City exclusive Comic-Con limited edition from 2017. So that's like a Seattle exclusive. And we had seen these like for astronomical prices, and we finally found one on eBay. So that was the last Funko, and that's how it started, was like collecting Funkos on TikTok, and then it divulged into all the other content that I make.
Love the Creeper Funko Pop. I think that's a treasured item in a lot of Scooby collectors. Out of your entire collection, because there's so much of it, what is your top 5 or top 10 favorite item, and what are the stories behind how you found them?
For sure, I will say I do have a top 5. Most of them that I pulled today are ones that like are handmade that I've been given to, or that I have made. So I will start with like the reason that I truly believe, I think the reason I started collecting so like wholeheartedly is because I met my partner and he was also extremely into Scooby Doo. So he was more into antique malls and like reseller. I was more into thrift stores. So I had never like divulged into the reseller market. So when he showed me that, I was like, oh, this would like make incredible content. Like we can travel to a different city like once a month and we can like film it. And so that was, I think, like a huge start to this. It was like me and my partner. And so I picked a few items that specifically he got me or that he made me. When we met on Tinder, our first conversation was about Scooby Doo, because in my profile picture I had like a Scooby Doo mask on because it was during COVID. It was September of 2020 when we met. And so like our first conversation was talking about Scooby. I found that he was an animator. We talked about the live action movie. And then on our first date, he showed up and he brought me, this is it's a keychain. It's the SD tag, but it was actually like a promotional keychain for the movie. And like he wrote a little message on the back. And this was, I'm not sure if you'll be able to see that. He like drew a little picture, wrote me a little message. So this is something I've cherished, and I have it hanging on my Scooby Christmas tree, and I just love it so much.
Oh, that was
Um,
lovely.
and
That's so sweet.
yeah, another thing, he is a very talented artist. He made me our second Christmas together. He made this clay mystery machine, and he signed the back and wrote a little
Oh,
message. And he also did this little clay Scooby, and I have all these on the Christmas tree because they're little hanging trinkets. But yeah, those are a few from Brad.
it's
Another one
amazing.
that
You're
I'm
both so creative because I watched your TikTok with the Hex Girls picture as well that you did. Like,
Oh yeah.
you're both so creative with things. It's there. Oh my gosh,
there
that's
it is.
amazing.
Love it.
Yes, so this is my
Amazing.
fourth. This is the one that I made. I have no idea if it's in frame.
Oh yeah,
It
it's
is, and it's
perfect.
incredible. It's amazing.
I almost wish
Thank
that
you.
you could duplicate them and sell them because just before we went to see Jennifer Hale, I definitely would have spent all the money in the world to get one. I just like, please. That's just
Oh,
incredible.
I'm so happy with how it turned out. I've been really itching to make another. I want to do like a really painterly, like sketchy, almost like a sepia tone Luna Ghost painting, like with lots of brush strokes. I'm very excited. I'm gonna start it soon. Um, yeah, and similarly, like the last thing I will show right now is something else Brad got me. So, like I mentioned, um, the theme park from when I was a kid, Wonderland, was a huge part of my childhood, and it's like a lot of my memories with my dad are from Wonderland. And so we've been slowly trying to like get little pieces of merch from the parks. And so Brad was able to find us a 1980 Canada's Wonderland coffee mug at our Value
Oh,
Village,
wonderful.
and it has a little Scrappy Doo on it.
Like,
And
I,
I literally cried when he gave this to me.
Oh,
I must say, as soon as I saw Scrappy, I looked straight to Sophie's face because Scrappy is like her all-time
Yes, I
favorite.
love
That
Scrappy.
Scrappy's
is.
your fave. We also found these are also from Wonderland and from Brad. I'm not sure if you can see little
Oh,
Scrappy on there.
oh, and a Freddie Prinze Jr. Oh, Scrappy.
oh my
So there
God.
we go. Those two are from Wonderland, and then this one's also from Wonderland. Yeah,
That is
and I think
amazing.
again, that's why I feel so lucky that I grew up so close to a theme park like that, is
Mhm.
because they only really used Scooby and Scrappy, so most of the merch has Scrappy Doo, which is really hard to find. I've found in the past couple of years, Scrappy merch is so hard to find.
It's so good that you live so close to be able to collect those things. I know there's the movie studios kind of place in Australia, and when my brother went there was so much merch and things in the shop that's what we
Yeah.
got from him for Christmas. He just got a gift bag and like filled the gift bag up with whatever he could get from there because
Have you guys been?
we've not been. We'd love to.
We were initially gonna like save up for ages and make it like a massive thing where we went to Tangalooma Island and then went to one of the Supernova Comic Cons to meet Neil Fanning, and that was gonna be like our last video ever. And then Neil Fanning came like, I don't want to say like 10 minutes away. It was quite a bit of a drive,
Yeah, a
but
few hours,
came
but
to this country and I was like, oh, okay, I guess we can hold off Australia for a bit, but it's like a dream
yeah.
location. Oh,
Yeah, as us as well. We would love to go and like see the hotel. I've seen a TikTok go viral of someone like going to all the filming locations at that hotel that's still available. So there's like the pool scene, and they like put in clips of Sugar Ray singing. It was very fun. I want to go so bad.
yeah, that's like my absolute dream. I mean, there's so much. I mean, honestly, I didn't know how. I don't want to say fanatical. How much on my wavelength you were with the 2002 movie, or I would like, I
Oh,
would just like
yeah.
kidnap you for a whole like 5 hour long like conversation about it. But there's a lot of things to do with that movie that are like absolute grails to me, like, and just impossible things as well. Like the concept of being able to buy the Luna Ghost costume, a Damon Ritus, one of the props that they used there,
Yep.
and even just now collecting all of the autograph Funko Pops from all the cast. I think the only one
Yeah.
we don't have is Linda Cardellini. But is there like a grail that's on your mind or something that you'd like to acquire that, you've not been able to find or that is just you found but it's not been the right price type thing?
Like from the 2002 movie or from everything?
Both 2002 and I guess just broader
Okay.
Scooby in general, like anything.
So the goal, we're very DIY focused. Like we like putting our little like mark on what we're like collecting for. So our goal one day is, first of all, to do a whole series on TikTok of making the disco skull. That's a project we need to start soon because I need the disco skull. And our goal one day is to have like a full finished basement and do the whole thing as like a Scooby Doo lounge. So we're gonna have a sunken living room, and then we're gonna do my Dead Mike's bar from the movies. We're gonna recreate the bar, and then in the lobby of the hotel, there's like the corner bar with the volcano with the light up red LED strips. You know what I'm talking about? And we're gonna try to totally recreate it. So I don't know if it's like a set piece we can purchase, but we're definitely gonna take a lot of influence from the specifically like the lobby from Spooky Island, and we're gonna put it in our basement. We're just gonna take the whole thing set and put it in the basement.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing.
See, I don't want to get myself in trouble, but if you did need any like in-depth looks at things, I can send you over like the email of the production designer because there's a chance that you might have more like of it, like a different pictures, different angles that might help you a bit.
That would be absolutely phenomenal. Thank you. You have my email. Thank you.
Oh, that is
Yeah.
incredible. I mean, I know that there's a bit of a stigmatism around this, so I'm not quite sure how to phrase it, but I guess it's always a question in two parts. I know that there's a lot of people that are kind of against the idea and concept of autograph collecting or having people sign things because you instantly look at it and you think maybe, oh, that's obviously just to see if they can get a return on it. But do you have any autographed items yourself? Or if not, is there any person that worked on Scooby or played one of the characters that you'd like to meet just for like a photo op or anything at all?
Yeah, my first go-to, like I would love to meet Matthew Lillard. He was at a fan expo last summer and everyone was messaging me like, "Did you meet him?" And I was like, "No, I missed it." Uh I don't know, like I would love to obviously have him sign like the Shaggy Funko Pops I have, but I also we're working on like, oh, I just did it last night. I did a shelf of just all of our thrifted Scooby books. And so I would love to get him to sign a little plaque because I'm gonna name like the bookshelf the Lillard Library. So that would be like a little thing that like I think he knows we're not going to resell because I'm just gonna be like, hey, like, can you please sign this little Lillard Library plaque for our Scooby bookshelf? And I think it's like things like that. Also, I'd love to meet Grey DeLisle. Again, Daphne's voice is just ingrained in my head. Like she is Daphne Blake. Justice for Grey after the Scoob movie because that was unfortunate. Um, but yeah, again, Linda Cardellini, iconic. Would love to meet her. Everybody, it's just all of it, all of it. I would love to meet them all. I'd love to get their autographs on everything. I don't have any autographs so far. Um, not a real collector yet.
Honestly, we wish our collection looked like yours, and I think autographs is an entirely different problem in and of itself.
Well, I think that's why we always get our photographs signed as well, because like I look so bad in all of our photographs, they know no one's gonna buy that. And not even my own parents. So I think they're good,
Oh,
by me as
no.
well.
I think signatures are almost as addictive as like with the Funkos. There's an end point in sight with Funko Pops. You know how many have been made, it's definitive. So that becomes
Yeah.
quite addictive trying to complete that. And then I think
Yeah.
autographs are quite similar. You try and want to build up a collection, and yeah, it's a chase, honestly. But we've been talking a lot as well about platforms, and we're obviously more on the YouTube side of things, and we've been admiring your TikToks for a while, to the point where JayBee told me we were doing this interview by bringing up a picture of one of your TikToks and sending it to me and saying that's our next interview because I love the TikToks that much.
Oh,
So
I'm
how did
excited.
you how did you decide that that was like the platform for you as opposed to say YouTube?
Honestly, like I've been trying to do the internet ever since I was a child. I have an old YouTube channel with over 100 videos from like middle and high school. My cousin and I, when we were like 9 years old, were running around with her camcorder, like making little movies and home videos. So the push to create and like the urge to want to make something and have myself in front of the camera has always been there. I embarrassingly enough, I was so against TikTok. I did not like the app. I didn't want to give it a chance. I went through almost 2 years of the pandemic. Like, I don't want to do this. I don't want to download it. It's a waste of time. I think I was its biggest critic. And then at one point, it was the new year. I think of 2021 and no 2022, and it was January 2022, and it was the viral feta cheese TikTok pasta with like the little cherry tomatoes. And someone had sent me the recipe, and I clicked on it and went to TikTok through the link, and I was like, oh, there's more than just people dancing on this app. So I downloaded the app. My very first TikTok video, which has since been privated, is me making the TikTok pasta, and it did really well. And the entire comment section was like, you have a really nice voice. You sound like my teacher. You sound like Chris from Family Guy. So I was like, oh, this is really interesting. Like I understood how the algorithm like worked and how people didn't necessarily search your profile. It was just sort of as you scrolled, you would get a view. So I don't think I was aware of how much of an influence like that gave you. I have like friends that go live on Twitch, and it's hard to get viewership to stay on your Twitch stream because people have to know you're live and then search up your name and then go to your channel and then watch your live stream. But on TikTok, people can just be scrolling and then come across a live stream and then click in, and then you've gained a viewer. So like I was drawn to that because I was like, oh, okay, so maybe people don't necessarily know much about Scooby Doo, but if I can like get them in with like a funny sentence, like I love doing a cold open. I'm known for a cold open. If I can like get someone's hook, like hook them in, and then tell them what I'm about, then I like that more than I think YouTube, because I don't think the YouTube algorithm works anymore. And we've tried, like I've done. It's a lot of work, and I admire people who do YouTube, including yourself. I do love your channel. I've watched many videos.
It is an uphill battle.
It is a lot of, and like also the on TikTok, people don't want us, like people don't need room to breathe. Every sentence is cut together. Like there's no breaths, there's no like pauses. Everything needs to be tight and quick, or else you lose the viewer. On YouTube, I find I don't think I've ever made a video that's been 10 minutes. Like I've never made it past the 10-minute mark, because while I'm filming, I'm like, I have nothing else to talk about. This is it. Like I am gonna have to leave in all these pauses and ums and ahs, and I just find it's a whole mammoth of a different platform, and I don't think I've broken into that yet.
I must say, I do agree with you that I prefer TikTok for the algorithm. Like I was saying, last summer, JayBee and I were doing a lot of like yard sale hunts and things like that. So that was a common thing on my TikTok, and that kind of algorithm led over to some of the thrift stores that you'd been to and your Scooby hunts as well. So I guess my next question is, and for you, is there a favorite item that you've ever found out in a thrift store or a yard sale that you thought you'd have to get online because it was that rare that you were kind of most excited to find?
Again, I think it's my childhood stuff that I've been trying to like hunt down. I back when like started doing well on TikTok, I asked my mom, I was like, hey, like I'm gonna start posting on Instagram, or try to. Can you please like go through your hard drives and try to find any like pictures of me with Scooby as a kid? Because I know there were some instances, like when I got my tonsils out, my dad surprised me with Scooby Doo 2 Monsters Unleashed and a matching pair of like Scooby Doo pajama pants, so I could like stay home all week and watch Scooby Doo. And I was like, I know I have a picture of that. I know I have pictures of me like doing puzzles or at Wonderland. And so she sent me all these pictures, and I was like, oh my gosh, I forgot I even had this stuff. So like there's a picture of me at the kitchen table, like building this blue Scooby-Doo puzzle of him like riding like a dirt bike. And last oh, on Valentine's Day, I literally found the puzzle in its box at Value Village, and now it's on my shelf. And like I rounded the corner, I was like, "Oh my God, there's the puzzle! I now have the puzzle that matches that picture." And it's just things like that that probably bring like me the most nostalgia. Something we didn't find in person, but Brad surprised me with recently. Um, when I was a kid, I went to Newfoundland with my dad for his wedding when I was 8 years old, and it was my first time there that I could remember. I like didn't know any family members because it was like all my like extended relatives from Newfoundland I had never met before. And somewhere along the way, he bought me this little like purple um like cup, so that when I would go to in-laws' house, I would like have a cup to use, so I wasn't like using their cups. And I don't know what happened to it. It was probably old and moldy and got thrown out at some point. But Brad was on Poshmark. He recently gotten into Poshmark, and he found it, and he didn't know what it meant to me. Like he didn't know that like it was the thing my dad got me at his wedding. And so he surprised me with it and he was just like, "Oh yeah, look what I got you." And like I literally couldn't stop crying because I was like, I haven't seen this thing in 15 years since I was a little boy. And now it's in my hand again. And I was like, this is why we do this, I guess. Like this is the nostalgia. This is all the feelings coming back. And yeah, I think this is probably the most like emotional I've gotten over a Scooby product in a long time, but it has a lot of sentimental value.
It's amazing that you managed to find that and get it back. And I didn't realize how common it is that people get parted from their, Scooby items when they're younger and then find them again, as we
Yeah.
restart the search. I know the first Scooby item I ever got, my older brother was at college. I was meeting him because he'd been like at night school, I think it was that week. And he'd brought me a Scooby toy of the lake monster. And finding that again when we restarted the Scooby search out in, I think it was one of our charity stores. It was
Yeah.
amazing to kind of find that and be able
Oh,
to
yeah.
replace
Mine was
it.
one of those burger pillows.
Yeah.
Scooby Doo burger pillows.
And you were debating whether to buy it online, weren't you? And I bought it for him, not realizing he was watching it. So he got so upset thinking
Well,
the
we
only
don't
one
need to
on
go
eBay had
into.
gone, and I'd got it for him. So he got really upset thinking he
Yeah.
wasn't gonna get it.
I was like, oh no,
I've got
Oh
it.
my
what am I
gosh.
doing?
But like you
Yeah,
say, they
that's the
do.
We've had so many situations like that. Like we've been in a bidding war against each other for an item,
Yeah.
and we ended up spending like 50 quid more than we needed to because we were both just two of the
yes.
last bidders just fighting each other and we didn't know. And it's like, oh, I don't know what's going on. Why would we do
That's
that?
the thing. I really try not to shop online. If that's another piece like of advice I can give to anybody that wants to get into collecting is just please don't shop online. It is so
Especially
just
for us. Like even
yeah.
Canada, I think we literally have not the identical, but I think I've heard a lot of Canadian collectors echoing similar things to UK collectors. Like you can get everything you need, but be prepared to spend £70 or $70 on your item and 100
Yeah.
on shipping. So
Mhm.
it's like,
Yeah,
Yeah.
it does really. And I think, like you're saying, I think when you're exploring places, not knowing what you're going to find, it gets so much more exciting. And there's things that you never
Well, that's
thought
the
you'd
fun of it.
find. Yeah, definitely. We
Yeah.
found some, they're only like this tall little figures of each one of the gang that somebody had 3D printed. There was a fan, they
Oh
just
my
got
God.
a 3D printer for Christmas or something. 3D printed all of the gang. And they're in this little bag of toys and we like managed to fish them out. One of them was broken and we found the other parts for it and like fixed it back together. But like things like that you just would never expect to find and they're so good to
Literally.
have.
Yeah. And like I said, like my favorite things in the Scooby room are things that you can't just go to a store and buy right now. Yeah.
Yeah,
And that
so
like the thing with collecting is it's slow and steady. Like there are things that like are on our like number one, we need to find these before we die. Like I really need the Barbies. I need the Scooby
mm,
Barbies and Kelly dolls because that like would be like pinnacle collector for me. I could buy them right now on eBay, but I think patience will be our friend in this situation.
mm. And I think sometimes when you order things online, there is a risk to it. You don't know what it's going to be like when it turns up, if it is the quality, especially with things like the Barbie dolls that are really quite expensive. So, with that being said, I know we've kind of discussed a lot of the highs, but is there any other highs you have for your, from your time collecting, but also any lows like that where perhaps say you've taken the risk of ordering something online, it's just not turned up right?
Yeah, I have ordered a fake Funko Pop before, and I was relatively new at Funko hunting. I had gone in person. All my Funkos had been in person, and then I found a website that I had ordered like the Scooby and the Haunted Mansion from, and a couple from that um like anniversary set, like a couple of like the villains. And I was like, oh, like you can buy Funkos online, sure. And then I ordered a Captain Cutler, which I didn't know was like a vaulted pop that people were really sought after. And the second I opened it, my brother was like, "That's not real. What did you do?" And it took me almost a year and a half to finally find it in person and like verify it was a real Funko. So again, like I sat on my hands. I think that was when I sort of stopped online shopping, unless it was like a verified eBay retailer with like I could get insurance on it. But yeah, that was a pretty low. I was really disappointed that day.
Mm.
that is disappointing. There's a lot of ways that you can get caught out. I mean, I think we're at the stage where we wouldn't even know Like I wouldn't know how to check if one of ours was fake or not. I know one of our Daphne Pops had like a hideous mark on like the front of her hair, and I tried to clean it, ended up making it
Oh
worse.
no.
So I was like, oh, no.
Well, I do have two videos on the TikTok of how to spot a fake Funko if you'd like. They're a little helpful. There's a couple of ways you could tell.
Oh, that would be fantastic. I will leave them in the description down below as well, because yeah, I mean that's just amazing. I absolutely love the content that you're doing. It is amazing. I just love the idea of people making content about things that they love. And so, to that end, I think in terms of, where I am at with Scooby Doo content creation, we're on like our third and final season of the interviews, and then we're kind of doing whatever comes next. But in terms of you and where you are at with content creation, what would your advice be to almost the future Scooby-Doo content creators out there that are maybe watching this and thinking about diving into that world of social media and Scooby content creation?
For sure. Honestly, the only thing I can like piece of advice I can give is just keep up with it. I've known people who have started and then sort of not realized how much work they are, but have sort of fizzled out. And I'm like, oh, I was really enjoying your content. Like you were making really consistent, very well produced content. I love your collection. I love your videos. And then they just stop. And I definitely had those moments. Last year, around November, December, I completely stopped posting. I went almost a full month without posting a single TikTok. And it really put me behind. Like, unfortunately, the algorithm doesn't like when you do that. But with a full-time job and like with other priorities, sometimes I don't have time to upload every day or even every other day or even once a week. Um, so I try my best to, again, like on my days off, film until 4 in the morning, rearranging the room because unfortunately that's when I have time to do it. If I can give a piece of advice, it's just like it doesn't have to be, I wouldn't say it doesn't have to be like perfect. Don't strive for perfection, strive for authenticity. No one cares what your editing style's like. No one cares what your lighting looks like. No one cares really what you're doing as long as you're enjoying your content. Like if you are posting things that you don't like, no one else is going to like it either. So if you can try to backlog a couple of videos so you always have something in the drafts. I have gotten to the point where I am day-to-day basis. Like I shot last night, I edited this morning, and I posted 5 minutes ago. Like it's hard, and I'm always my like peak hours for TikTok is 5 p.m. like my time, and I'm always at work because either I'm opening the store and I'm there until 6, or I'm closing the store and I get there at 1. So I'm posting TikToks like I'm taking my breaks at 5 o'clock so I can post a TikTok and try to like stay relevant. But it takes dedication, and that's all I can say is just try to keep up the momentum as long as there's a reason to keep up the momentum. If you like what you're doing, then it shouldn't feel like a stress or a burden.
Mhm. I love that
I
a
love
lot.
that. I mean, watching
Mm.
your videos, you can see how much you love your collection. And I think for us as collectors, we love being nosy and seeing what other people have got, and that brings us joy. So altogether, we just love seeing each of his collections. Um, do you have any goals for future content plans that you currently in works that you can talk about?
Yes, we have been trying to start a podcast since last September. It's one of those things where I just need to bite the bullet and do it because I know the second I film one, I'm gonna be really excited for the second one, but we just haven't had the time. Again, sorry, Brad's an animator, and unfortunately, he took on two projects at the same time right now. So he's like sleeping 3 hours a night. He's always in his office. He's always working. So I've been a little less I've been a little more hesitant to sort of pull him away from his actual job to be like, hey, can you come sit in the room with me for 2 hours and record a podcast? So it is up and coming. I would love to do it. We're gonna do like a Scooby Dudes review podcast. We already have like the graphic made. He drew a beautiful banner art for the YouTube channel. Everything's set up. We just need to find like the time to really start and hit the ground running. We have merch planned. Again, he's an amazing drawer. He's an incredible artist. So we have lots planned. But for right now, I'm focusing on the TikTok. Again, he is not He is the face of the channel. He's always the face of Scooby hunting because I don't really film my face when we're Scooby hunting. So people have recognized him in public, and he finds it very strange because he doesn't even have social media. Like, he doesn't have Instagram, he doesn't have TikTok. So it's there's a lot we want to do. It's just a matter of like getting the time and also sort of the funds to do it. Because right now, unfortunately, there is no creator fund in Canada. So all of this is just for like a hobby, I guess, as like a little extracurricular for me to keep myself busy. But so we're waiting for like the time and the money to come.
Well, we love a good podcast, and it sounds super exciting. So
Yes.
when the time comes, we'll all be here waiting to listen to it.
I'm very excited.
Where is the best place for people watching to follow your content?
From TikTok. TikTok has like the little beacons. You can find me everywhere else, but just Tristan Sacrey on TikTok. That's my primary platform. Technically a TikToker now.
Well, that is
I went
absolutely amazing. Like
I went
people
from
that
despising TikTok to now a TikTok creator.
well, I think that's I don't know, like obviously I don't know how old you are, but I think in terms of my generation, there's always been that stigmatism. Like it's almost like we went through high school watching like cringe compilations of back then when it was called Musically and then Vine, and that
Yeah.
was always associated as the cringy side of social media to now the point where I think it's easy to come along with TikTok without stigmatism, then to download it, and now it's like hours and hours of just, oh wow.
Something that appalled me about TikTok is apparently for people under the age of 18, it's like their go-to search engine over Google, like for how to do anything.
Hmm.
And I was like,
Oh.
surely that's not the case. And I
Well-
like spoke to my nieces and nephews, and they're like, yeah, I found out how to do this on TikTok. I'm like, oh my gosh, I used to go to
Well, I will
Google.
say, I will say, for learning how to do something specifically, I usually go to YouTube first and type up like a tutorial, so I can see how their like search engine, maybe
That's
not
a
for
good
general
point.
general questions like who was the first president of the United States, but if it's like how do I change my oil, I would go to maybe TikTok now because there may be like a pretty in-depth video, and like again, I was going to TikTok, I realized it wasn't all just musically like dancing and doing funny like TikTok dances in front of the cameras. So yeah, I mean, there's a niche for everything.
And it listens to you as well. I promise. There's some obscure things that I just mentioned about in passing, and TikTok knows.
I can't remember what it was, but I did have an instance of that today. Something we discussed last night came up on TikTok this morning. Can't think what it was, but it is alarming.
Maybe a bit on the inappropriate side. We'll have to.
It's a movie, I think, or something it had come up about. It's so strange how as soon as you say something, it's on your TikTok.
Oh god.
Literally, I on Valentine's Day we went to the mall and I went to Sephora, and Brad collects perfume. Like he has like a huge vintage perfume collection, and I cannot stand the smell of perfume. Like I find it terrible. But there was one at Sephora called Milk that I loved, and I didn't Google it. I saw it in person. I took a picture of it so I could remember it. The next morning, I was getting scroll through ads on my Instagram stories of the specific Milk perfume from Sephora. Like I took a picture of it on my phone, and then I was getting direct ads for it the next day, which is terrible. I was so freaked out.
It is worrying. It is so worrying how that happens.
Then again, though, it's a good way. I mean, I don't mind. It's a good way of connecting me to what I'm interested in. It's just when I'm ranting about something I don't like that I'm like, oh gosh, now I'm seeing it everywhere. There's like controversial news articles, but it's just amazing. I mean, as long as you're on TikTok, I think the app is just that much better. So thank you so
I
much for all of
appreciate
that.
that.
And
Thank
just
you.
thank you so much for your time coming on today because it's been incredible to talk with you. And when your podcast is sorted out, when you review Scooby Doo 2002, I'm gonna be there with popcorn. I'm gonna premiere it. Oh, it's gonna be
For
amazing.
that,
So thank you so much.
Thank you so much. For that one, we've decided that we're going to do 3 different videos for that one. So we're going to do the review, we're going to do a commentary track, and then we're going to do a extended scene, like go through every single deleted scene and talk about them in context of the movie. So we're going to do 3 full episodes on the Scooby 2002.
That's amazing.
Oh
I'm
my
very
God.
excited.
I love it. I love it. I'm gonna cry. I feel like I met my soulmate. No, like, oh, No, Millie, you know.
I do. As soon as you mentioned that you love Scooby Doo the movie, I knew that changed the entire podcast, this
like,
entire interview for
I
JayBee.
actually need help. I need some serious help.
I will admit, the projects that you're talking about, like wanting to make that kind of disco skull and everything, that's made me so excited for the next TikToks for you. Like, I can't wait to see that.
I have many ambitions. Let's see how they pan out.
It's always good to have ambitions. But as we say, thank you so much for coming on today. It's just been an
Yes, I
absolute
love it.
pleasure to speak with you. And of course, thank you so much to everyone for watching. This has been another interview on the JayBee and Milly channel. You can find Sophie's social links in the description down below as well at Scooby Doo We Do for Life on Instagram. So yeah, we'll see you next time.